The music thudded behind the heavy steel door like a living heartbeat, loud enough to rattle the hinges, loud enough to remind Marcus Reed that he did not belong on the other side of it. He stood in the narrow alley, rain slicking his jacket, fingers numb around the mop handle he'd carried all night. When the door finally cracked open and a voice said, "I'm so sorry," Marcus froze, not because of the apology, but because of who stood there. His young boss. The same kid who signed his checks. The same face Marcus had tucked into his heart years ago and tried to forget. Marcus hadn't planned to stay late. He never did. Single dads didn't have the luxury of lingering after midnight, not when a second-grade alarm clock waited at home, shaped like a cartoon rocket, programmed to wake his daughter for school. But the club had been short-staffed again, and Marcus had agreed to mop the back hallway after closing. Extra hours meant extra groceries, and extra groceries meant fewer nights of pretending dinner was just cereal with milk. The club was a place of sharp lights and sharper edges, all bass and bravado, the kind of place that felt young and untouchable. Marcus was neither. At 38, he carried his age in the crease of his brow and the way his shoulders drooped when no one was looking. He had once carried other things too, hope, a future he could describe without flinching, but those had slipped through his fingers after his wife died and the world demanded he keep going anyway. His boss, the owner, was 24. Everyone called him Evan King. He'd bought the place with money from a tech startup he'd sold before most people figured out what they wanted to be. Evan was polite, almost painfully so, the kind of young man who thanked the dishwasher by name and apologized when the base ran late. Marcus had noticed that. He noticed kindness now the way some people noticed danger. When the door opened, Evan stood there without the swagger he wore in front of investors or influencers. He had taken off his jacket, sleeves rolled, dark hair damp at the temples. He looked familiar. Not the way famous faces looked familiar from screens, but the way memory crept up on you uninvited, tapping at your ribs. "I'm so sorry," Evan said again, and the apology landed between them like a dropped glass. "I didn't realize anyone was still back here. I thought you'd gone." Marcus swallowed. His throat felt tight, the way it did when he tried not to think about hospital rooms or promises he couldn't keep. "Just finishing up," he said, voice steady by habit. "I'll lock the back." Evan nodded, but he didn't move away. His eyes lingered on Marcus's face, searching, tilting slightly as if the angle might unlock something. Marcus turned back to his bucket, heart thudding louder than the music now. He knew that look. He had seen it in mirrors and windows and in his daughter's eyes when she almost remembered a dream. "Marcus," Evan said quietly, testing the name. "Can I ask you something?" Marcus straightened slowly. The alley smelled of wet concrete and citrus cleaner. "Sure. Do you?" Evan hesitated, then rushed the words out. "Do you have a scar on your left forearm? From a bicycle chain?" The mop slipped in Marcus's hand. He closed his eyes for a moment, long enough for the past to step closer. He rolled up his sleeve. The scar was pale and jagged, an old souvenir from a summer when scraped knees felt like the end of the world. Evan's breath caught. "It's you," he whispered, and suddenly the bass behind the door felt miles away. "It's really you." Marcus's chest tightened. He saw it then, not the club owner, not the man with the confident smile, but the boy with grass-stained jeans and a backpack too big for his shoulders. The boy who had stood on Marcus's front steps years ago, cheeks streaked with tears, asking if he could stay for dinner because his mom was late again. "Evan," Marcus said, and the name unlocked a room he had boarded up. They stared at each other, time folding in on itself. Evan laughed softly, the sound breaking. "I can't believe this. I mean, I knew the name sounded familiar, but, God. You were my hero." Marcus shook his head. "I was just a neighbor," he said, though his voice betrayed him. "I fixed bikes. Made grilled cheese." "You made the best grilled cheese," Evan said fiercely. "You walked me to school when my mom couldn't. You taught me how to throw a punch bag without breaking my wrist. He stopped, eyes shining. "You saved me." Marcus looked away. The alley blurred. He remembered those days too clearly, the small apartment, the fridge that hummed louder when it was nearly empty, the nights he sat with Evan on the floor and helped with math homework while his wife slept on the couch, exhausted but smiling. He remembered the phone call, the crash, the way the world split in two. After the funeral, Evan and his mother moved away. Life kept going because it didn't know how to stop. "I'm sorry," Evan said again, softer now. "I didn't know." I mean, if I'd known it was you. It's fine, Marcus said quickly. He didn't want pity. He didn't want gratitude. He wanted to finish mopping and go home to his daughter, who believed her dad could fix anything. You're my boss. That's all. Evan frowned. No, it's not all. They sat on overturned crates in the alley, the rain easing into a whisper. Evan listened as Marcus spoke about Lily, about morning lunches and late bills, about the way grief didn't disappear so much as change its shape. Marcus hadn't planned to say so much, but Evan had that old attentive stillness, the one that made kids feel safe enough to tell the truth. You should have told me, Evan said when Marcus finished. I could've. Marcus raised a hand. I didn't want special treatment. This isn't special, Evan replied. This is, right. The next weeks unfolded quietly. Evan didn't make a show of it. He didn't announce anything to the staff. He just noticed. He noticed when Marcus left early to pick Lily up and scheduled accordingly. He noticed the broken wheel on Marcus's car and had it fixed without fanfare. He noticed the way Marcus carried responsibility like a weight and offered help without strings. One night, after closing, Evan handed Marcus an envelope. Inside was a contract, operations manager, full benefits, a raise that made Marcus's hands tremble. I can't, Marcus said, panic flaring. I don't have the experience. You have the heart, Evan said simply. And you taught me that's the part that matters. Marcus took the job, not because of pride, but because of Lily. Because sometimes accepting help was its own kind of courage. The club changed too, subtly at first. The music softened earlier. A community night appeared on the calendar, no cover, local bands, a food drive. Evan insisted Marcus help plan it, insisted the place could be loud and kind at the same time. On opening night, Lily stood by the door with ear protectors, handing out flyers with serious dedication. When the night ended, Evan locked the door and leaned against it, smiling at the empty dance floor. You know, he said, I used to think success was proving everyone wrong. Turns out it's paying it forward. Marcus nodded, his throat tight again. He thought of the alley, of the apology that had opened a door to the past and let light in. He thought of how life had bent without breaking, how strangers became family if you let them. At home later, Lily curled against him on the couch. Daddy, she said sleepily, Mr. Evan says you're his hero. Marcus kissed her hair. We all need one sometimes, he said. The rain started again outside, gentle and clean. Marcus closed his eyes, grateful, not because the past had been redeemed, but because it had been remembered. And in that remembering, something broken had been mended, not perfectly, but enough.